Hello everyone, welcome back for another video of Bravo gameplay with one and only Run Very Noob. I have kind of an interesting take on a deck we're probably all very familiar with, Dash. They have a very interesting starting item though, which I think might actually be not terrible. Definitely unique, never seen it before. So as we see here, they start with cognition nodes. Now if you don't know what this card does, I wouldn't blame you. But it operates like the other items where you pay 1 to put a steam counter on it, and once per turn, as an attack reaction, you can remove a steam counter from it, and the attack action would get, when it hits, it goes to the bottom of your deck. So instead of doing the normal sideboard plan in the Bravo of going kind of pistol item grindy, they're still trying to boost while maintaining enough cards in their deck to not lose the fatigue through the nodes. As we'll see through this game, I didn't really know what position I should be taking against this deck. I was definitely wary of not being able to just easily fatigue them. We'll see how it goes. This opening hand seems fine. You know, I get to Zealous Belting. Oh, see, I try to mute the game sounds, but I learned in the future that I just have to mute my media player. So yeah, just Zealous Belting into Hammer for 6. Unfortunately, on their first turn, they get to set up an item, Teklo Pounder, so we definitely do see that they are looking to boost aggro us. They also had a really big deck, about 70 cards, maybe even more, 70, no, like 70. That's 67, 72, 73 cards. They block a little bit of the damage here, but not most of it. I don't think I want Warmonger's Diplomacy in Arsenal, even with Crown up. I don't want to be forced to use Crown just to get rid of a bad card in Arsenal. So I only block 3, and they use nodes, so they get to go up a card in deck. We also see Rotary Ram here. I haven't seen that card in quite some time, but it is another damage boosting effect that goes to the bottom of their deck. They T-bone me. I try to block with Tectonic Plating as soon as possible on the T-bones, because once it gets 2 counters, then it can just freely block T-bone without giving up any value. We get to block the red zeros for 60, leaking damage, and I think that would have been a better attack for them to Cognition nodes, but perhaps they were afraid we would full block it and they wouldn't get any nodes value. Attacks for 2 here. I don't think I should have blocked. I think because of the nodes, we're probably not going to be able to full fatigue. We're probably just going to have to try to outvalue him. So only getting 2 value instead of 4 from the hammer, probably poor there. But like I said, I wasn't really sure how I should approach Cognition nodes dash. Normally with boost dash, I would easily just block the 2 from the pistol and fatigue them out. But it's not going to be so easy with this setup they have. If it was me playing this game now, I would probably be looking to command and conquer them. But as it stands, I think I just give them as many cards as I can. I don't know, I just sort of forget what Scrambleverse does and try to block the tech plating. So I just let him get that back with cognition nodes as well, which I think is probably poor. So I guess I wouldn't command and conquer. I would just try to block. Since I really don't want him to be using cognition nodes on red attacks. I do take the 2 here so that I can command and conquer. A little weird. I'm definitely knocked off balance. I'm not really sticking to a plan. Because like if I'm not blocking that pistol, but I blocked it a turn ago, that doesn't really, that's not, both of those plays don't line up. It's a little bit, you know, me changing my plan on a whim. We do get the crown, which I think is kind of nice here. Not sure why you want to just block 6. Maybe he just wants to use his life as a resource so he doesn't get fatigued. Here we have a fairly poor aggressive hand. Probably just looking to block as efficiently as possible and move on. Overloop basically already has the text of if it hits, put it at the bottom of the deck, and I want to prevent that. Maybe I'm trying too hard to prevent that sort of effect, and I should just be kind of still racing. But I think a boost dash would be able to easily outpace you, and with a hand like this, even if we were on the race plan, we would still just block. So we don't have anything good to throw at him. And yeah, again, using the tech plating as soon as possible for any future T-bones that we don't really want to block, we can just throw tech plating in front. So waiting to see what he decides to do. Load up the cognition nodes, load up the pistol. We've seen him pitch his other 2 Teklo-Pounders since he already played one. So it looks like he's setting in for the long game. An attack for 5. It's not a red attack, but it's still probably one we don't want him to be cognition nodesing. He has no floating resources, so the only attack he could throw at us from hand that would be kind of scary is a red 0 to 60 for him to nodes. Definitely an interesting card. I'm not sure why I haven't seen it tried more. I think it might be like a reasonable option to sideboard into fatigue strategies. Maybe once people had more practice against it and it was a little solved, it wouldn't be so good to beat fatigue, but it's only one sideboard slot where the pistol defense reaction plan is like, I don't know, 3 sync, 3 fate, 3 unmovable, and like 3 pistol items. Sometimes even like 5, 6 pistol items. It's a ton of sideboard slots. See Goliath Gauntlet into a red throttle. I'm not sure if I block with Zealous Belting here or a 2-block armor, but I definitely don't want him nodesing that attack to the bottom. That's a really big attack. So yeah, we just block with Zealous Belting. This is a red attack, but it's only 4 damage, so it's not quite is massive from the cognition nodes. Still good though. Still definitely at this point in the game, sort of sweating it, being like, am I even going to be able to beat fatigue? Do I just need to stop all of his cognition nodes? So I throw the legs in front so that he doesn't nodes it back. And then he only has a blue, so he doesn't get the nodes value this turn. And of course, with no cards, we just have to pass back. I think maybe this cognition nodes tech wouldn't have worked back in the Oldhim days, because they just had Rampart of the Ram's Head and Crown to like block all the breakpoints. But if the fatigue deck of choice in the current meta is Bravo, he doesn't really have that option. Like he's just at some point he's not going to be able to stop the breakpoints of 4. So cognition nodes will start getting value. Not entirely sure if it's enough for Dash, but I definitely wanted to show this game because I thought it was interesting tech that isn't like wild and wacky. It actually seems kind of effective. And almost like efficient with only taking up one slot in the 80 card deck. And I also think that the pistol plan out of mid-range Dash is still Bravo favored. If you are the full Tree Frog control Dash with like blue unmovables and Ironhide Gauntlet and Ironhide Boots, I think that's Dash favored, but that's also an incredibly niche sort of like targeting deck that's only really looking to beat fatigue, and I don't think it has like a ton of game into a lot of other decks and strategies. So we see another Pump Spell and BIOS update. Kind of a high rolly card. Maybe they hit like an item, although we've seen them pitch their other Teklo Pounders, so not sure what item they would even play. Again, covering those breakpoints to prevent nodes, but we're running out of armor really quick. Don't think we're going to be able to keep it off forever here. He boosts, which is interesting. I wonder if his arsenal is like a Teklo core or something like another zero cost attack. Yeah, it is the Teklo core. You can't see my deck, but I only have 32 cards left in my deck, so he still has 10 more than me. At this point, I'm starting to realize maybe the full fatigue plan just isn't going to work out, especially since I'm out of armor and he is going to start being able to cognition nodes the breakpoints. T-Bone, though, we just block with tech plating and let him cognition nodes this one because it's only 2 damage. If he wants to nodes this one, that opens us up to not letting him get like a bigger attack on the bottom, because we're not really afraid of him having extra small attacks. We just want to prevent him from reusing like throttles and other reds. I think blocking with 2 cards is what I want to do here. A greedier person might have blocked with Command and Conquer and Crown of Providence, looking to make a surge and throw Spinal Crush, while keeping the Crippling Crush in arsenal. Honestly, I think the greedy play might have been good here, because if we're not trying to full fatigue, mounting some sort of offense, I think would be great. As it stands, we do get to command and conquer him, which requires blocks, or we get to get the card in his arsenal, which helps us for the full fatigue plan as little as it might actually be, just the one card. We see him block with maximum velocity, which I think is one of their better cards against the fatigue strategy, especially with a Teklo core in play. They must really not have a hand that can turn it on. I guess with Command and Conquer killing the arsenal, it might be more difficult for them to turn it on. But that seems like a card that against fatigue you'd want to just like park an arsenal and wait for it to work. Because 10 damage is a lot. Like a lot. And it might even be easy to cognition nodes it back to the bottom next to a bunch of like blues that otherwise wouldn't have a ton of value. But with maybe them enabling another maximum velocity turn would. We were definitely looking for a blue there with our crown, trying to mount some form of offense. But I think we just block with our 2 big attacks so that we can command and conquer him again. This zipper hit wasn't boosted. I don't think we want him to put a red zipper hit on the bottom. So yeah, just give him 2 of the big attacks and then we can command and conquer him again. Getting a card or 2 either way. Nice, we get a couple attacks that have a breakpoint. That at this point we have no armor to stop. I guess I want to rouse the Ancient Sim. I just don't block that one since I guess the breakpoint would be too hard to stop anyway, like too costly. And this 0 to 60 is a lot easier to just block for 3, and then we can, oh, never mind. Yeah, he's pitching the card. Only 1 less damage, but he gets to keep the attack in his deck to not get fatigued. I block so quickly there. I think I'm just supposed to not block. I can dominate a Spinal, but throwing Rouse into Hammer for 6 and then arsenaling a card would put some pressure on his life total. And here I'm just trying to disrupt a turn, but I'm not even guaranteed to have a follow-up. So presenting 13 damage and then arsenaling a threat, I think would have been better here. Like taking 2 to do so would have been worth it, I think. It's pretty close though. I luckily do draw into another threat. He has no Spinal Crush, but he has like his best attack for being Spinal Crushed. And we definitely don't want him nodesing that to the bottom, so we don't even get the Terra Sunder here. We just gotta block it and then go in with a hammer. Oh, I just hammer for 4, trying to arsenal the Terra Sunder? I don't know if I like that. Because if he has a full hand, it's not like I'm going to be able to keep 2 cards to Terra Sunder him. we're still down about 10 cards in deck. So I think he's going to fatigue us before we fatigue him, so I'm going to have to try to mount some sort of offense, I think. Get to Starstruck Unity, which allows us to choke slam if we just don't block anymore this turn. Plays a Tome of Fyendel, which is very interesting to pop his boots. I don't know if that's really the business, but if it enables him to have like a maximum velocity turn, it's definitely worth it. Kind of an interesting card to include. I haven't seen a high octane, maybe we just haven't seen it, but without high octane, you have to use your boots to get the Tome of Fyendel. Plays a red combustible courier, which we just have to block for 6, because if we let it hit, it's going to be worth 7. And he kind of knows that he's baiting that out. Even if I blocked for 3, I wouldn't have been able to block this overloop for 8 anyway, so we take some damage and give him a card back in deck. Dominate Crippling could be a good way to get back in this game. Because at this point, I'm sort of feeling like I'm not going to be able to fatigue. I only got 17 cards left in my deck, and he has 23, which is going to grow due to the nodes. So I'm definitely hoping he just doesn't have like a huge amount of damage here, so I can dominate a Crippling and hopefully deal enough damage to get him down to 0. Because I don't think I'm going to be able to do the traditional like fatigue. I'm running out of cards faster than he is, and he's going to be putting cards to the bottom with his item. So I'm just kind of in a tough spot. We get kind of lucky here that he doesn't continue the aggression this turn. He just sets up a Teklo-Core, and we immediately just dominate a Crippling. He's not going to be able to stop it. His build doesn't have like defense reactions, and we get to say goodbye to another maximum velocity. Oh, excuse me. Oh. We only hit 2 blues, which isn't the most damage output for him anyway, but it does seriously limit his turn. We get a little lucky having our one of Sink Below in here. At the time in this build, I didn't have a 60th card that I wanted in an aggressive plan into the normal item dash. So we get to Sink Below a card, which is very good because we didn't have anything to Zealous Belting with. Unfortunately, we don't hit the blue. So we just kind of have to throw the Choke Slam at him, I think. Oh, I guess I don't. I just protect my life total a little more. And it looks like a hammer for 6 here. Which is fine. We block 2 to do 2 less damage. So it's kind of an even exchange there, except with this line we get to keep a surge, which probably won't have too much value, but it's something. Deck sizes are getting a lot closer. He rotary rams without turning it on. It's just like a pump. So maybe full fatigue would still work against cognition nodes. But it's definitely a lot closer than normal. Like if a normal dash just goes boost into you, you'll have like 30 cards left by the time they run out of deck. And this fatigue battle has been pretty neck and neck. Just a little lag check here. Plays a Teklo Pounder, leaving us with some cards, so we get to Chokeslam. We even get to make a surge, thanks to the Starstruck Unity. And at his life total, he has to start blocking now. I mean, he could always just give us Foundry Heart instead of a card and go down to 2. But something's got to give eventually. Being at 2 life means he's just going to have to start blocking everything, including our hammer. So he blocks 3, which will leave him at 5 life, which means that he could face tank a hammer still. And he has a Teklo Pounder in play, and I believe he has one more in his deck as well. This Overloop for 7 is pretty good. Yeah, I think I definitely want to block with a red and a blue. That way I can tear asunder if his arsenal is the Teklo Pounder that he wants to play this turn. Nope, just 3 and we block. So I think at this point the game's kind of in our hands, just because if we block 9 and hammer for 4, at these life totals, seems like a reasonable avenue to victory. And our deck sizes have finally caught up. We both have like 11 cards in our deck. But like I said, the way he blocked last turn allows him to still face tank this. And with the 1 block left on his Teklo Foundry Heart, he could even just give me 1 card the next time I hammer, 1 card plus the armor. He ends up blocking with a yellow throttle, which I think must mean his hand is good, because that seems like a pretty big attack for him to block with here. Like attacking with that would definitely be better at fatiguing me. Maybe a small mistake from our opponent, but he could also just have a very good hand. And at this point we're going to try to win on damage, so we're just going to let him cognition nodes this stuff. I don't even want to block this because I can go to 4 and then still send Tear Asunder, and we can be pretty sure he doesn't play any defense reactions at this point, and he'll only be able to block for 4, which he won't die, but he'll go to 1, and then he'll only have a 1 card hand. all in all, I thought this was a very interesting game. Very interesting anti-fatigue tech in the cognition nodes. Just wanted to show off something a little, more fun. Maybe less competitive, but still commentate it like it's a competitive game. Still try to win every game I play of Flesh and Blood. And maybe even just kind of highlight that this might be something worth exploring. I think it was pretty well played by my opponent. He did what he could. I'm sure he didn't play it perfectly. I don't think anyone has ever played a perfect game of Flesh and Blood in their life, in the history of the game. That's just kind of how trading card games are. You're always going to make mistakes. You're always going to change philosophies. Looking back on games you play, you'll probably notice a ton of mistakes, like how I do watching myself with these videos. So this dominated attack ought to kill him if he's at 1. As it turns out, he has 6 cards left, 1 in his deck, 5 in his hand and arsenal, and I have 8 cards left, 6 in my deck, 2 in my pitch zone. So it's possible that if I just committed hard to a fatigue plan, it would have been reasonable. I do think the attacks I threw at him probably helped me fatigue. So yeah, I definitely wanted to show you guys something a little bit more fun, Fun Fridays. And until next time, leave a comment down below. Let me know how you liked the video. Mention any of my play mistakes, of course. Those are always my favorite comments if I get them. And happy gaming. See you around.